You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy.
And now, the hunt for the perfect album.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the hunt for the perfect album with Billy and Dave. Where this week, I don't know what I was thinking. I've been slowly trying to, warm Dave up into this is me, this is who I am. Dave and I, how long have we been recording for now, Dave?
It feels like forever.
It does.
I don't know. Is it coming up on 2 years, or is it not that long?
You know what? I reckon it is. I reckon it was November 2 years ago that you came to We Watched a Thing, and we've been doing Perfect Album for over a year. I think we're coming up to
we're 50-ish episodes, so it's around about that.
And so, obviously, the thing about music is it's so personal. Like, it reveals so much of your personality. Like, you know that I was a punk kid growing up. Mm-hmm. You know that I grew up listening to a lot of folk. I've spoken before about the...
You were in a band. That's
I was.
The only justification for how you were able to marry Noosk.
I was in a band. I was in a band that described ourselves as alternative soft rock, punk rock, twee.
That's just a list of titles that don't relate to one another.
Look, I've been slowly kind of warming you up to like my brand of punk, because I've given you a lot of my kind of indie pop twee stuff, and I've kind of given you some pop punk stuff, but this is probably this is quite thrashy, kind of more heavier punk. I've given you Good People by Not Half Bad, and I have no idea what you thought about this. We didn't record last week because you said after a couple of listens you really disliked it and you wanted to give it a bit more time. I don't know if more time would have helped, but let's just get into it.
All right. Look, let me say just from the outset to sort of set the scene. I'm very much of the opinion that there are people in the world who love music and want to create music and start bands because they want to make music. Obviously they want to be successful, but the driving force is not to be successful. It's because they're musicians and they want to create their artists.
And honestly, from listening to this show, probably about 100% of the bands I've given you are bands like that just create music because they want to create music. And sometimes it resonates with people like me, and a lot of the time it doesn't, which is why they're not famous.
Exactly. There are certain genres where I have always felt there are people who are in bands that are in those genres because it's easy and the driving force is either to make money or to not have to get a job, or both.
Yeah.
And the genres where I feel that's most apparent is punk and metal.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, to use an equivalent, in like the film world, it's a little bit like people who make indie horror movies. Because horror is very cheap to
Jonathan
make.
Frakes, whatever, Blood and Honey.
Yes,
whatever
exactly.
Your fucking name is.
Yeah, that's the equivalent.
Yeah, 100%. And then you've got, on the producing side, you've got your kind of algorithmic machines like Stock Aitken Waterman and Simon Cowell and that, who have a formula for money-making bands and singles and churn them out like sausages.
Yeah.
And these days it's probably done by AI. You could probably just do exactly the same thing. Have algorithms that go, this has a 94% chance of being a successful song.
Yeah.
Blah. And with punk and metal, it's usually typified by really simplistic, don't know how to play instruments very well, so I'll just whack the same thing loudly over and over again, and singers who don't have good voices who scream.
Yeah.
And it's weird because in the same era of for metal, it's anything from the 80s on through, and you get into even more egregious subgenres like new metal and death metal and etc., where it's literally how loud and offensive can we make ourselves? And the audience for these bands, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't believe they can be enjoying the music. They're either enjoying listening to shit that is offensive to other people, or they're enjoying taking drugs and thrashing around in a mosh pit, or you cannot enjoy something that is tuneless and is screamy.
I agree. I hope that that's not what you're saying.
I'm still going. Just chill. So when I first put this on, I went through this I just started Danny Glovering all over the place and just going, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was 20 and I still liked the Descendants and that sort of stuff, this kind of screamy punk would work for me. And that's like I messaged you saying, oh, give me another week, because I don't want to just come in and have the entire episode being me going, this is shit for 5 minutes and then kind of rapping. So I gave it another, and I've probably listened to the album like 6 or 7 times. I wanted to really give it a good go.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I did find getting past the kind of screamy vocals, it's not that kind of band.
No, it's not. They're not trying to offend people. In fact, there's...
No.
If you look at the...
Musically, it's good.
If you look at the 13 tracks, there's 4 with the little E next to it. It's not like, you know...
It's really weird. So, having had the extra week, I like this album.
Yeah.
I think I'm keen to hear more of their stuff. I think they're a good band. I wish they had a different vocalist. And that's the one kind of problem that I had with it is I'm not 20 anymore. I don't want to hear screamy Like, there are vocalists who can scream sing, like, say, Jimmy Barnes, but they have a fucking fantastic voice. I don't think this guy's got a good voice. He's just scream singing.
That's
which works for the aesthetic, and I'm sure if I was 20, I'd be like, woohoo, take my shirt off, thrash around in a mosh pit.
Yeah.
That said, I got past the vocals with the extra week, and I did like this album. There are certain tracks that I will continue to listen to, and I'll add to playlists and things.
Yeah.
Once I kind of... And maybe I was a bit tired the first couple of times when I tried to play it, and the vocals just put me off. Once I kind of listened to it with a bit of attention, there is a lot of... the lyrics are actually quite good through the songs where you can make them out.
Yeah.
Musically, I did gel with it. It's a weird kind of... I got... And I know they're not, but I got kind of that Celtic punk Dropkick Murphys sort of vibe off them. Because of there's sort of a folky element to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you find the pure folk punk songs? Like, there's a good 5 or 6 tracks that are acoustic.
Yeah, so there's kind of a folky punk which gave me Dropkick Murphys, Flogging Molly type vibes, and everything. The rest of it kind of sounded... It had a kind of a Green Day-ish vibe to it. So once I kind of gave it a good go through, it did kind of chill, because I liked Green Day, as you know. I like Dropkick Murphys and anything Celtic, and I like folk. So there was more than enough for me to enjoy here. And the thing that I really liked that came through is there's quite a lot of sense of humor through the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's really interesting use of samples and things like that are... There's all these unexpected little things.
Yes.
Tracks, you know... There's a lot of variety. As you said, there's some acoustic tracks. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of unexpected notes throughout the album that kind of revitalized my listening when I was starting to get a bit over the screamy vocals.
Yeah.
And it kicks off right from the beginning, where you've got this, and it says, I deliberately didn't look them up, but I assume they're from the South in the US.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you kick off with this Revolutionary War kind of march.
What the words I speak, you know, are fiction, 'cause we are plagued by indecision, betrayed by bureaucracy and religion, and we'd rather watch TV. So glory.
Yeah, I think it's a great fucking way to start an album.
It's a good way to... I mean, it makes the first track, Thin Crust, hit twice as hard, though, when the screamy vocals come in. And that was the moment when I went, okay.
Yeah, because the transition is very hard.
Thin Crust grew on me, and I do actually like it now.
Yeah.
But it was the fucking you know all of those movies like Officer and Gentleman where they're going through training camps, and there's always at the end of the training camp the tough bit where they've got to get and they all hit the thing where you've got to go up the wall and the wooden horse thing that's the wooden wall. This song was that wall, but it was right at the front of the album.
In this place, no one's free.
They want to take us from our homes. They want to turn our telephones because they know the sun's coming. Someone to wear the Tyson suits will send our feet in riot boots and outside send us running.
It's probably the most punk song on the album. So you're right. It is very harsh coming into that. Like every other track, at least, even when it is kind of screamy punk, it tends to still start with a bit of a riff. Like it leans more towards pop punk in the musicality, even if the vocals are screamy.
It's
Whereas
a very
that one is just
misleading
right
track.
in.
Yeah. And it did put me off quite a lot. As I said, I've
can
grown
see
to
that,
like it, and it's probably in my top half of the album. But it took a fair few listens to kind of get over it, the screaminess. And I do. The one thing I have about the album is I don't think he's I don't like him as a vocalist.
No, and look, that's completely fair.
The rest of the album won me over. And there are some. It's weird. There are some tracks where the screamy vocals don't bother me, and I think it's. Yes, some of them are acoustic, but there are also some where you've got a lot more harmonization. Where you've got backup singers coming in, and it's less straight down the microphone. Yeah. Which, as I said, when I was 20, fucking all up for that shit. Now I'm Danny Glover, and I'm too fucking old, and I don't want it. So yeah, Thin Crust kind of grew on me a bit. The next track, To Mum Kathy and the Impending Argument, which is a great fucking name for a song.
Yeah.
Was okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, look, it's funny,
It's probably the biggest example of a song. I like the musicality. If you remove the vocals from that, it's a really good kind of skate punky whatever track. Yeah. If there was a different vocalist, I'd probably really like the song. But it's probably the biggest example on the whole album of where I think his vocals really put me off.
Yeah, yeah.
But then we get to track 4, Phil Collins.
I knew you'd like this one.
Well, we open with Bill Hicks. How fucking good's that?
Yeah.
My favorite comedian of all time. I was like, all right.
For any length of time, it's the most depressing fucking thing you will ever do. War, famine, death, AIDS, homeless, recession, depression. When you look out your window, it's just...
That's a perfect example, too, of what I was talking about before, where you open with a riff. Like, it eases you into the song. It's a bit more, there's more musicality to it. I love
There's
that
much
track.
more of a melody through that one. It's a lot catchier.
Yeah.
You're opening with Bill Hicks, which immediately gets you an entire extra star for me.
Yeah.
No, that was the track where I went, oh, you know what? Catchy shit, I like it.
Okay.
And that improves even more with the fifth track, Bad Cliches, which much more of a kind of 90s punk feel, which kind of hit my nostalgia buttons a little bit. It's more of a kind of a descendants, that early 90s punk. I did really like this one.
Yeah, that one to me, it's very reminiscent of, say, like Rancid, where it's punk, but it's probably the slowest beats per minute as far as punk songs go on the album.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and again, he is screaming, but there is more melody to the
I think
way
it's the
he's
fact that it's
screaming.
slower.
Yeah.
His voice is still shit, but but because it's slower, it's not just this relentless barrage.
Yeah.
He is still following a melody, even if his voice isn't the greatest. So it doesn't feel quite so off-putting, I think. Probably that was probably my favorite track on the album to this point.
Yeah.
But quickly deposed because then we get to Newports, which kicks off with a fucking killer kind of guitar.
Yeah, fucking great riff.
With my lobotomy, lost trains of teenage piracy to scour nighttime city streets for benefits for all to reap. And all of us and all our scores, we'd run the streets, they'd lock their doors, but not a stop or detour. We'd take the world down.
Yeah, I mean, with different vocals, that track is like straight off of Dude Ranch, like early Blink 182. Like it's got that awesome fucking riff. It's got I really am a huge fan of that track.
Yeah. And then then we get kind of our first abrupt left turn.
Yes. Yeah, which I'm curious because for a lot of people this is their like favorite from this album. I mean, it's not like this is a huge album, but for the community that enjoy this album.
Predictably, this and a song we get later are a quantum leap ahead in terms of number of listens on Spotify.
Yes.
Like this is over 1 million. Most of the others are under 100,000. Yeah. We're talking about punk rock is a full-time job, which we get it's acoustic for starters. Intro, which came out of left field. Lyrically, it's quite amusing.
Yeah,
and this was the first time I went, oh yeah, Billy said folk, and I haven't fucking heard it up till now. But yeah, now we've got kind of a Celtic folk sort of a. Yeah. This is where I thought, oh, maybe they're from Boston, and they're
and for the back half of the album, there's a lot more folk. True. Yeah.
And I've given it a lot of thought. Punk rock is a full-time job, and I'll be the first to admit it's fuck the world or it's pay the rent. And I wish that I could say I live my life like Young Brigade, but when the lights come up, you say I'm just a fake. So fuck it.
With banjo and everything.
And then we get even more banjo on the next track. There's a weird amount, as you said, once you get to this second half.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety, and it kind of works. So the first few times I was thinking, oh, geez, it would have been nice if they'd kind of spread this, the shit that I like through the album. But I think it works. You've kind of got this up arc, and then you taper down in the latter half.
This is exactly why I chose this one for Perfect Album, because I think that the construct of this as an album is quite interesting, because it is almost like an album in two halves. Like,
100%.
It's very punk heavy at the front. It's much more folk heavy at the back. And yet somehow I think that the thread that links this whole album together works really, really well. So that's...
Yeah, well, there's a shit vocalist.
Probably my second favorite track from the album. It's pretty high up there. I really, really enjoy that one.
It's the one probably where my frustrations bubble over the most, though, because I'm loving this folk, loving this banjo, and then
it's
just like, dude, It's like some drunk from the audience stumbled on stage and grabbed the mic.
Yeah.
But I did really like the banjo in that. Not going to say anything about Basements. Nothing really to say about that one. But then we get to track 10. Jesus Christ. I know we spoke in the past about when we did Tallahassee about kind of downer, depressing songs, but fucking hell,
this is my favorite from the album. This has always been my favorite.
I would have predicted this a million times over.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good lyrics. Very funny.
Oh, it's like you say, it's depressing and dark, but it's so humorous.
It's so
and
over
light
the top.
at the
It's
same
funny.
time.
It's hard not to laugh at the lyrics of it.
The other day, when we were trying to come up with a playlist idea, and I think I suggested to you like short songs, like songs under 3 minutes or under 2 minutes or something.
Oh yeah. No, this is super short.
This was the song that I was thinking of. That was like, oh yeah, well that's my number one easily. I love this track.
People say that every cloud has a silver lining, but they have never wrecked a car and killed two of their friends, and they have never seen someone do too much heroin, so those people don't know a goddamn thing.
Fuck, I love the lyrics in this song. It's just so good.
It's probably my favorite on the album, just because it is so shocking but funny. Much like, I hope we die. I hope that you die.
And that's the other track that I mean, punk rock is a full-time job, like you said, is in the millions. That one's
and
at
this is
800,000, which is
10 times more than almost every other track on the album.
Yeah,
and it's I mean,
for a band with 35,000 monthly listeners, it's pretty impressive that they've got songs that are in the millions.
Yeah, I reckon they must have been on compilations or in a movie, or there must be a reason other than just kind of pass along. Then the last three tracks, I liked all of them.
Yeah, cool. We Did a Lot of Walking is another one of my favorites.
I love the drums in this.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? I might leave that to play the show out on.
Yeah, that works. Revolution's song I really liked, and that was the other one, apart from having Bill Hicks and the intro that made me think, these guys are from the good old South.
Yeah, look, I mean, on a re-listen, I can see how the vocals might irk someone.
Oh, look, if you like the vocals, it would make this band. It's kind of like Tom Waits or Bob Dylan. If you like them, it makes it. If they don't gel with you, it's the big thing, the big flashing light that you don't like.
Yeah, 100%.
The last track I really liked. All I've written is love this. Would love it more with a different singer.
Which seems to be kind of your thoughts.
It's kind of my notes for the whole album.
Yeah.
Is that musically I ended up really liking it, but I never gelled with him. I never gelled with his voice.
Look, that's fair. I mean, look, this is not the first band I've given you where the vocalists can't sing. I mean, I think it was episode 6 of the show that I gave you Martha, which is another punk band that.
But they can sing. They've just got ludicrously hilarious accents, but they can sing fine. Look, I came a long way over the last week from hating this album to actually liking this album. So I think it's been a journey. I still really dislike him as a singer, and it's kind of means that there's 2 or 3 tracks that I definitely really like and will put onto playlists to keep listening to. But it makes me hesitant to kind of delve deeper into them because I assume he's the vocalist on other albums too.
Yes.
But I probably if I rated this a week ago, it would have been like a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
As it is, I'm a 6.
Okay. So you're above average.
Oh yeah. It's. I would recommend this to certain people.
Yeah.
You know, in the right age group who I think are at that sort of punk sensibility. It's probably my least favorite of what you've given me, but only because of his voice. Musically, it's not my least favorite.
Yeah.
I do like almost all the tracks musically, and about half of it I like even with his vocals.
Yeah.
But the vocals were a real stumbling block for me.
That's fair. And look, I mean, when you're into, kind of the indie DIY music scene like I am, I guess you just get accustomed to vocals like that. And it's just, like I said, I've never really thought about them. Like, I know that he's not a good singer. Like, anyone can pick that. But like,
when I was 20, I don't think the vocals would have been an issue for me at all. I was listening to The Descendants. I was listening to Black Flag and Rollins and, a lot of kind of hardcore punk, Dag Nasty and bands like that where they're not great vocalists and you don't care.
Yeah.
But I guess, I guess I'm not the same person as it turns out that I was when I was 20. I thought I was, but maybe I'm not.
All right. Well, what are you giving me next week, buddy?
I'm swapping it out. I think I had Tom Verlaine in the schedule to give you. I'm not doing that. So sorry if you've cheated and glanced ahead and started. I'm giving you an album that I only picked up in the last week.
Okay.
Which is the latest album by an Aussie band called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Okay. All right. I have been meaning to listen to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and I have not yet, but I've seen that they are one of those prolific bands. They put out basically like an album every 5 to 6 months. Like, they've got so many albums now.
They, in 1 year, put out 4 albums.
Yeah.
That were all different.
Yes,
and
I've heard that. They're very diverse.
They are the most constantly evolving act I've ever come across. More than Bowie, more than Madonna. Oh, they have albums that are pure hardcore thrash, which I can barely listen to. They have a lot of their stuff is kind of in the modern prog.
Yes.
Kind of, they're very experimental. They are probably worldwide the biggest exponents of microtonal music.
Yep.
Where, don't need to explain, but for the listeners' benefit, in the West, we obviously have, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Yes.
We have
the scale.
Notes in a scale. Not all cultures have that.
Yeah.
Some have notes within the notes, and that is microtones.
Yeah.
Stu McKenzie, the kind of front man and driving force behind King Gizzard, is a big kind of fan and exponent and fascinated by this, and to the point where they've had whole albums that are microtonal. He built his own microtonal guitar and then had the whole band rebuild all their instruments to be able to play microtonal music.
Yeah, right.
And so they had some albums that experimented. Then they had an album called Flying Microtonal Banana.
Yeah.
The whole album is and I'm still not 100% sure I can hear what it is, but their music sounds different than other music, and I'm sure that's probably what it is. But they've had pure pop albums. One of their most recent albums, which the guy that put me onto the band some years ago, one of his favorite albums is called Infest the Rat's Nest, which is full on fucking thrash, and I can barely listen to it. But the most recent album, which I'm giving you, because I was going to give you what is generally considered to be their crowning achievement, which is an album called Nonagon Infinity.
Yeah.
Which is 9 tracks that all doesn't work on vinyl, sadly, which is how I listen to them. But if you listen to it digitally, every track flows seamlessly into the next, and the last track flows seamlessly into the first track. So essentially, if you put it on loop, you will never hear it. You will never hear a transition from track to track.
Okay.
But every track works
on its own. Yeah.
On its own as a complete track with a start and an end. It's fucking genius. But it's super prog and
yeah,
experimental.
okay.
And it thought, rather, I was going to just throw you in the deep end, but I thought that this new album came out, and it might be my favorite album of theirs. It sounds like a late 60s, early 70s blues rock album.
Yeah.
It's kind of Led Zepp meets like Steely Dan or something. It's unlike anything else, and I thought, I think it will kind of hit a sweet spot for you, and it might be a nice gateway drug, and then I can give you the weird shit later.
Yeah,
so
no,
the album is called Flight B741.
Okay, all right.
The album cover is a pun. It's a picture of a triplane with pigs on all the wings. So kind of a nod to Pink Floyd, which is sort of the 60s, 70s bluesy rock that they're going for.
Okay.
But yeah, I have been on repeat on this album. I said one of the reasons why I couldn't do this recording last week was because I needed to listen to the album more, and that's true. But part of the reason why I hadn't listened to it more is just I've just been addicted to this album and had it on repeat non-stop.
No, I'm keen. Yeah, I've had them on my listen list for so long, and like you say, because their discography is so fucking huge, I just didn't know where to start, which is why I hadn't listened yet. So,
well, I was the same. I had wanted to check them out for years because a mate of mine that I worked with at Big Pond years and years ago, Brent, is like the world's biggest. For years, they've been his favorite band.
Yeah,
and the name alone made me want to check them out.
Yeah.
But it's just daunting because they have, there's like 20 whatever albums. It's like, fuck, where do you start?
Yeah.
And you go Google and every fucking subreddit, everyone has got a different opinion because stylistically they're all so diverse.
Yeah.
And none of them are bad. And then once I finally got in and fucking fell in love, and he and I went and saw them live like a year ago or something. Fucking magic show. They're amazing. Probably my favorite Australian band currently doing stuff. So I'm very, very interested.
Excellent.
To see
Keen to listen to that. Just before we move on, just to let you know too, speaking of new music, Charlie Bliss's third LP is finally dropped. Yeah. You've been listening?
Oh
Yeah.
I've just been playing, been in the car. I've only listened to it a couple of times, so I don't sort of have favorite tracks in that down yet. But yeah, literally the day it dropped, the kids, I knew, but the kids told me, and it was on in the car. So
yeah, I got my pre-order vinyl the day it dropped with a signed postcard. So.
Woo!
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here at the Hunt for the Perfect Album, where once again we, of course, listened to a perfect album. If you want
mileage may vary.
If you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at pottymouthradio.com and hit us up on the Facebook listener community. And I'm going to play us out with "We Did a Lot of Walking" by Not Half Bad.
Nice.